You're good.
Good, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, February 1st, 2021. The time is 10:01 a.m. and I would like to call to order the Community Planning and Economic Development Committee. The first item on the agenda is the chairperson's roll call. I will go ahead and mention everyone that's in the meeting. My name is Vasha Adamczak, 7th Ward Councilman and Committee Chair, and with us we have Nikki Posterly, Councilman Lauren McNally, Committee Member, Beverly Hosey, Councilman Julius Oliver, Committee Vice Chair, Councilman Jimmy Hughes, John Braylich, Ian Beniston, Sharon Woodbury, Jack Daughtry, Jennifer Ozinger, Valencia Mero, Attorney Jeff Limbian, but it says John, Nick Cretion, Rick Deek, Robin Crosby, and it appears as though someone else is connected. Can you state your name? Who just connected? That's his iPhone.
Hi, Mike Durkin.
Okay, and Mike Durkin. The next item on the agenda is new business, and the first topic under new business is going to be the CPED reports. Nikki?
Thank you. Through the chair. Good morning, everyone. Nick Cretion is going to show a screen for me so we can review our 2020 Community Planning and Economic Development reports and highlights. Does he have the screen share? Okay.
Is that up for everyone now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, scroll up a little bit, Nick. You make it a little, there you go. All right. So this is our annual report. I wanted to give an opportunity to discuss some of the initiatives that we took on in 2020 and just highlight some of the successes that we had. Next slide. So the Community Planning and Economic Development Department, we are responsible for frontline services to businesses to ensure equitable quality of life for our future and current residents in the city of Youngstown. We also are a revenue generating source for the city's general budget. We're also the foundation for revitalization and stabilization efforts throughout the city. We are made up of 3 separate divisions, which is community planning, or community development, economic development and planning. Those are the 3 divisions that have 3 separate priorities, but linked together for one common goal. Our resources are to improve neighborhoods, align business strategies, promote workforce development, and offer a better quality of life for our residents in the city. Our table of organization, our administration consists of myself. We have a planning consultant, Hunter Morrison, who's been on since I think 3rd quarter of 2019. Beverly Hosey, who is our Director of Community Development. Sharon Woodbury, who is our Director of Economic Development. And then we have an open planning position. The Community Development Division is responsible for quality of life. They also administer federal funds through HUD, Community Development Block Grant dollars, home dollars, and ESG, which are emergency solution dollars. Youngstown is an entitlement community, which means that we have to get public input from our stakeholders and our residents in order to develop a 5-year strategy, which is our consolidated annual performance plan, which we did this past year. And we are happy to announce that as of last week, we received a letter from HUD that our consolidated plan was successfully accepted and approved. I do want to acknowledge the hard work of Beverly Hosey, Rich Harvey, and Rufus Hudson. They worked tirelessly. This was a huge project. And I'm really pleased at the work they did. We started, and I think you all were aware that we started this project a year behind, and we met our deadlines and were successful in getting it completed. So kudos to Beverly, Rich, and Rufus. Some of the highlights in the Community Development Department was, again, completing the 5-year consolidated plan. The annual action plan, which is carried through the consolidated plan. So now we have to talk about and reach out to the community on the activities and the goals and how we're going to spend this money. You all should have received a notice of public needs hearing, which is going to be February 9th at 5:30 via Zoom to discuss and meet with the community on how we want to activate this consolidated plan through our annual action plan. The substantial amendment to the city of Youngstown was another successful task. We did that this past year as well. And that was to allow the city to apply for and accept the CARES Act dollars that were received during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. The PR2 report is an activity report, which is a direct result of all of the efforts and the community consultants and all the collaborations with the stakeholders, all of those meetings that we had, the series of meetings, that report was submitted successfully as well. Excuse me. And then the 2020 Healthy Homes Program, which is $400,000 in CDBG funds and $70,000 in home funds for rehabilitation and resident homes to repair the structures, as well as lead hazard program. And then you have this in your copies, but this is just a chart of how those monies were spent, who we allocated it to, our subrecipients. We have just in that short period of time allocated over $3 million of HUD funds. And so we're very proud of that. Next slide. Our economic development department, we call this our sales team. We have economic development tools that we like to use to help our new and existing businesses. We want to help the businesses that are relocating here, as well as sustaining the businesses that are here. That division is broken up, again, of the 3 divisions, this division has 2 employees. Our Director of Economic Development, again, Sharon, and our business recruiter, Vicky. We've also contracted again with EAG to help with our COVID business outreach. And the responsibilities of this team is to research the inquiries from employers that want to relocate here in Youngstown, to try to find business opportunities for them, to find land for them, manage the programs in terms of negotiating them that it suits the city as well as the businesses. We also want to make sure that we're building the relationships federally with the state and our community partners to make sure that we're all strategically aligning ourselves to rally around the businesses, our new businesses, our current businesses, and attract more growth. Collaboration with stakeholders, again, and securing federal and state funds to promote economic development. Next slide.
Nikki, if I may interject for one moment, please. I just want the record to reflect that Mayor Teeter Brown is in our meeting. Thank you.
Our community development, economic development highlights our COVID assistance. We created a COVID task force within a week of the pandemic hitting, which was a huge undertaking by Sharon. We've reached out to all of our community partners, and they've been meeting weekly since the beginning of COVID to discuss how to make sure our businesses are strong and stable. We've formed a partnership with a technical assistance provider. We've secured $20,000 from KeyBank to help with our COVID relief. And as of today, we'll be rolling out our business stabilization plan with the assistance of those funds from KeyBank, and also some CARES Act dollars, some HUD COVID dollars. We'll be rolling that out today. We partnered with Small Business Administration. We had Facebook Live event to talk about how businesses can apply for SBA loans. We've conducted outreach with our community businesses. We had a series of meetings with the businesses to hear from them, to see what their needs are. As a result of those meetings, we created a temporary expansion area to assist them during the COVID restrictions. And we've also contracted the end of 2020 for minority business outreach and support. So we're really proud of that, and we're ready to start moving that along in 2021. We've also contracted with a vendor to help us with a buy local app, which is called Kulu. And you'll start seeing some of those advertisements coming out soon. We're just finishing up some negotiations with on the legal side of it. We also reached out to a vendor to help us with our tracking. We realize how important data tracking is. So we have a new system that we track all of our economic development activities and pipelines, so that we can move from spreadsheets and having the resources in all different places to one system that's going to track all of our business opportunities. And then we're also, on the planning side, we did some brownfield assessments. So we're looking to clean up some land so that we can start, again, attracting businesses to the area. With regard to pipeline attractions, we have proposed investments of 85 million in the pipeline. We have some under construction currently, and some of the completion that we're proud of highlights are the Veterans Hospital, as well as PNS Bakery. With the Tax Incentive Review Council, we've retained jobs, we've created jobs, and the total investment there you see 161 million. We are part of Forward Cities Learning Collaborative, which again is a cohort on how do we strengthen ourselves and how do we become equitable, how do we help entrepreneurs build themselves up. Next slide. Our planning. Again, we have an open position under planning. Currently, the organizational chart has planning and community development combined as one job. Again, my ask is to separate those into 3 different divisions and have a standalone planning division. The goals and the strategies of the planning division, if you can see all this busyness here on this chart, is because their job is to connect the dots, create the vision and connect the dots. Uniformity between the community development division and the economic development division, all of their efforts, all of our community stakeholders need to come together for a plan. We can no longer work in our own silos and expect those plans to come together without a planner at the head of that, making sure that, you know, transportation is included in there, making sure that our infrastructure is where it needs to be, making sure that the community as a whole is engaged in what our priorities are. So again, using the economic development activities and the community activities coming together to create a plan is what the planning director's job is. As you can see now, we don't have a planning director, we don't have a support person. In that division, one person has been successfully holding that position together, that unit together. Karen Perkins has been, her job description as a zoning analyst. However, when it comes to moving land and receiving land and land assembly, all of that's been done by Karen. So kudos to Karen for the job that she's done, keeping our land kind of moving in and out of the city. Next slide. Some of the highlights from planning. We have worked with our consultant to update various job descriptions, especially community development. We are currently again, looking for a compliance director. We've updated the community development director position. We are going to talk a little later and when we get to the restructure about housing. We have worked to relocate zoning under code enforcement, which we thought was a great move, and it's really helped us align ourselves and work better with our code enforcement department. Again, land reutilization, that is a position that we currently do not have. But it is a duty that has been continuously done within our department. We've also streamlined our design review committee, as well as our planning commission of board of zoning appeals. We transitioned the meetings through online, through Zoom, and we also are working, well, we didn't work on, we've created an automated telephone system for our department. What we're working on now is online permits and forms. I believe Rick's been helping us with that. I believe we'll be ready to roll that out soon. We're kind of just testing the system, but residents and business prospects will be able to go online and submit applications for permits and pay online as well. Again, we've updated our processes and case review when it comes to design and zoning appeals. We have a lot of partnerships here that we've created and aligned ourselves with. We definitely appreciate our partners, and we wanted to make sure that we highlighted the initiatives that we're doing with our partners. Our YNDC strategy with housing is something that we'll be rolling out and we'll be talking about a little bit later. Again, Economic Action Group, much help to us when it came to COVID and aligning ourselves with the business community and outreach. Retail strategy is another contract that we're looking at to help us market the area for grocers. We are part of the Baldrige Communities of Excellence. We work closely with Eastgate on land and infrastructure, and the list just goes on and on and on. Corridor analysis. We have done some studies with transit, with our commercial corridors, our Market Street corridor, Belmont, and you know that we've just applied for our planning grant along with YNDC and Boardman for the Glenwood corridor. We're also looking for some enhancements, or we've worked with some enhancements on Spring Commons, Smart 2 with Eastgate, and 20 federal repurposing. We've received that Appalachia grant that we're working on, as well as the medical campus in Belmont. We are updating along with Dawn Turnage and Park and Rec, the parks plan. We've reached out to YSU, as well as Mill Creek Metro Parks, so that we can have a partnership there, a strategic plan together. And again, the acquisition of McKelvey Lake. As far as the land bank highlights, we have transferred from the city out to the community and put back on our tax duplicate. I believe it's 50, can you scroll down, Nick? 52 or 53 parcels. And as you can see, again, like I said, this was like a one-woman show here. We were moving, property, and we had that little downtime when COVID hit and we had to do some furlough. And then we started picking it back up again towards the end of the year. So kudos again for 52 transfers and donations into the city. I believe we were at 16. Zoning permits, again, we're moving permits. We did about 300 for the year. And just wanted to talk a little bit about our funding structure and how we were able to do these things. And it wasn't easy, but, staying within our budget, making sure that, we didn't overspend and we used our finances wisely. So these are some of the salary structures that we currently have. What's general fund budget, and again, what's reimbursed under community development block grant dollars. I think that's the end of that. Nick, is that the end? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. What would you like me to pull up next? Or do you want
That
to?
is our annual report. I don't know, Basha, did you want me to move on or stop for questions?
Well, that's what I was gonna, I guess we can stop for questions. Do my colleagues have any questions regarding the report?
I have one question.
Sure.
Sure, Julius.
Thank you, through the chair. It looks like it's a lot of work has been done as far as planning, but how much of all of these planning items are actually in motion right now, and what's the end result? What are we looking to accomplish?
Everything that we've presented as far as planning is in motion. And what we're looking to accomplish, again, is housing, workforce development opportunities, which again, all of these things are, they're in motion and in plan, and business, entrepreneurship, so our, maintaining our small businesses, creating growth for new businesses to come in. Land acquisition is huge for us right now. We have a huge housing strategy, and we want to make sure that we have the space and the capacity to bring developers in to look at, help us, redevelop our neighborhoods. Same with the businesses. We've had a lot of inquiries, and sometimes, we don't have the land. We have to take time to assemble it when they're ready to move right in. So that's really huge for us right now. And corridors. We have a lot of corridor studies that are out there, and we're working to make sure and put our team together, which is part of the reason why I have our code enforcement on, as well as our partners with YNDC, putting our team together to make sure that we're out in those communities doing the cleanups that are needed, making sure that, the enforcement is being done. Reaching out for grants. We have John on here who's been excellent in mapping these areas out for us and collecting the data.
Julius, follow up.
Thank you, through the chair. So in the past, land acquisition has been something that's been pretty important. We've been talking about that for years. So how are we going to be in competition with the county land bank, or are we working along with the county land bank for the city land bank to inquire, so we have our own leverage and our own power when it comes to land acquisition?
We're working in partnership with the county land bank, because there are some city-owned properties that are currently in the county land bank. We've also are working with the law department to update our policy, city-owned property as well as land bank property. We're updating those currently to make sure that we have control of what's in the city and we can market it better. That's why, again, that's why we're pulling all these partnerships together and aligning ourselves so we know what we have. We want to be able to allow residents to go online, apply for a property that's next to them, be able to look at it and map it out. We want businesses to be able to find out what their acreage is that they need to relocate here, have it on a map, apply for it, and work remotely and online. So we're working with Rick, as well, to update our system, redo our website so that it's just more user friendly.
Final follow-up.
Joyce.
Thank you, through the chair. So Nikki, last question. Why did it take so long to get to this point in planning? Was it just a matter of moving the appropriate people around, adding people to the team, developing relationships? What took us so long to get to this point?
Through the chair, I've been here a little over a year. And what I've noticed in that year is the absence of a planner was crucial in getting some of these things together. Again, connecting the dots. You have an economic development purpose. You have a community development purpose. What we missed, which is what other communities had to help them move forward, was a planner, was someone to help create the vision, connect the dots, align the right partnerships. It takes a lot of meetings, a lot of collaboration, a lot of foresight, and it's a special skill set that I would hate for us to lose. And that's why I'm pushing so hard for a planner. I really think that was the challenge.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Lauren.
Two things. The first one's just a question, and maybe you're going to get to it later in your presentation, but isn't Karen retiring?
Yes.
Do you have a plan?
And I have that in my restructure.
Okay, so we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
On today then. Okay, so then my second question was, if we just go back to some of those numbers that you presented in terms of project activity, and they were under the headlines, project activity and review and presentation review of tax incentive report. I just want to understand a little bit deeper what I'm looking at here, if that's okay.
Nick, can you grab that slide, please?
Sure. What slide were we pulling it back up to? I'm loading it right
The
now.
economic development highlight slide.
Yep.
I apologize because I'm at home. If I connect into the office, it shows my empty office chair. So I had to go on the web. So Nick's navigating for me.
Yep. So I just wanted to make sure I understood what we were looking at here on the right-hand side of the screen. When you say pipeline and attraction of 10 companies, those are 10 possible companies you've had conversations with that are looking at moving into Youngstown or expanding within Youngstown, but haven't actually done it yet. You're
Both.
still
Yes.
negotiating with them?
I'm sorry, through the chair, yes.
Okay. And is there any, like how strong, if you're talking about maybe percentage or 0 to 10, how strong are these candidates, these 10 companies?
Sharon, can you speak to the companies you're working with?
Yes, so of the 10, there are 2 that are attraction, where they are looking at a number of sites that include Ohio and we've connected with them, and there is an interest in our area. So we've got their attention. We're giving them information and competing with other locations. The other 8 are in various stages where they've identified a site, and we're working to try to keep that relationship going and move those projects into action. So some are a little further along than others.
Okay. And then under the successful and or under construction, what's the difference between under construction and like, why are they in this section and not above it in the pipeline and attraction section?
Because there are projects that have committed to moving forward.
Okay, and there's 6 of them there, and these ones are definitely coming and getting across the finish line.
Yes.
Okay, and then the 2 that you highlighted down below, those are just 2 that you wanted to point out.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and then presentation and review of tax incentive report. These numbers are related directly to companies who have our tax incentive program currently.
Correct. And it's commercial, it's not housing.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That was it. I just wanted to make sure I fully understood what I was looking at here.
Sure.
Julius?
Yeah, just 2 questions. Kind of piggybacking off of Councilwoman McNally. 2 things, I'm gonna just say them now and let you guys answer. When we talk about these companies that are coming and that they're sure things, have we put in place a better vetting process than we did before, with, like, say, when it comes to chill can, or are these like 6 possible chill cans that are coming? Number 2, when we talk about tax incentives and the numbers that were presented, yes, we've made some progress when it comes to that, but I think what everybody has to keep in mind is the tax abatement process or tax incentive process is partly the reason why Youngstown stays in so much poverty, because it's gone unchecked for decades. So are we, and I know we've talked about this, Sharon, in our other meetings, but are we in any way strengthening our language or adding more things like we've been talking about for a couple years now to make sure that these companies are hiring Youngstown residents and minorities when it comes to our programs with tax incentives?
Yes, we are. We're looking at our contract with our EEO officer and making him more engaged in having conversations with the companies very early on, so that there can be some specific action points and goals in how they're going to meet their diversity and city hiring. So with those conversations happening early on, right after the agreements are signed and there being an understanding of a path moving forward, we are putting that in place so that we can correct some of the challenges that we've had in the past. I have had conversations with some of the companies and are connecting them with some of our other organizations so that they have some resources. Sometimes these businesses are really just skilled in running their business and not aware of the type of support services and programming that can help them with the diversity goals that we are asking for them to push forward with. So we have had sit-down conversations with companies and talked about where some of those programs can help them in moving that needle forward. So I feel that we're definitely going in the right direction.
Thank you. I just want everybody to keep in mind that in putting these things in place, we have to make our citizens the #1 priority. Yeah, we got to attract business, But if we don't make our citizens and job creation the #1 priority, our city will continue to stay in poverty. And our issues are mainly economic. And that's why economic development is so important. So thank everybody for your hard work, and I just ask you to keep all our citizens first in mind. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding the reports? Okay.
I don't think, through the chair, I'm sorry, I don't think anybody answered like the vetting process. Like, are we gonna have 6 to 10 new companies that's coming and never open? Or are we making sure this is like, for real, these jobs are coming and this is really happening? Like how's that process changed from the time where we got into business with, Joseph Mitchell to where we are now with these new companies? How's that vetting process changed?
Through the chair,
Yes, Nikki?
I can respond to that. What we started doing differently in 2020 is having a full team approach. So when a business wants to come into this community, we have a team of myself, Sharon, the mayor, our law director, our planning consultant, as well as our economic action group partners. So we all vet this, and if it's land that they need, and if it's infrastructure, we'll get Chuck involved. If there's anything that has to do with, housing, we'll get Mike code, we'll get Mike involved. So we're taking a complete team and we're meeting with them over and over until we're comfortable. We're asking the questions up front. We're not allowing, and I don't know what the past practice was, but what we're not doing is allowing the business to say, I want to move here, I want to plant my feet. You kind of just take what I'm offering. We're saying, here's what the community is looking for. How can you meet those needs?
Did you have a follow-up, Julius?
Thanks.
Any other questions regarding the report? Okay. Nikki, if you wanted to move on to the next item, which is the CPED goals. You're on mute.
Sorry, Nick, can you move on to the 2021 strategic priority?
Yep, that's loading up right now.
Thank you. So we've been working on how we want to approach this year. We've looked at some of the strategies that we've done last year, what we need to change, what we want to build upon. And so we've come up with some priorities. Instead of a plan, we want to talk priorities. Next slide. And Councilman Oliver, this may speak to your last comment about economic development leading the charge. The social conditions in the city of Youngstown are directly impacted by employment issues, unemployment, food insecurities, lack of adequate housing, lack of transportation, struggling education system, crime-ridden neighborhoods, and business instability. Promoting social and economic justice includes collaboration of residents, businesses, and agencies coming together to identify that a problem exists, creating solutions, setting goals, respecting differences, and working together to solve the problems, remove the barriers, and create a pathway for a healthy community. This is our focus for this year. We realize that in order to change the community, you have to understand the social impact of the community. When you work on those things and you have a healthy community, you can better meet the needs of those living in it. Next slide. This is just some census stats that I took off a website. I probably should have put a reference on there, but this is just kind of our makeup of 2020 census stats. Next slide. How do we want to improve these conditions? We can either continue to be reactive or we can be proactive. And how we want to do that is we really have to get our arms around data and mapping. We need to know what we have so that we can share that and be able to market that to others. So we've been using land use tracking. We've been looking at our crime statistics and tracking that as well. Code enforcement. and as well as our landlord registry and rental trackings. This is how we are going to create healthy communities. Again, we want to meet the needs of the housing and we want to meet the needs of the businesses. We also want to improve our schools, and we can't do that unless we know what we have and what we're working with to market. Community. We cannot build the community without the community. We wanted to, I had some ideas, we had some ideas as a team last March that we wanted to start getting out in the community, engaging the community, having large community meetings. And of course, with the pandemic, we had to kind of rework that. We weren't able to get out in the community as much. We did so virtually, but this year we really want to make an effort of rebuilding the community along with the residents. So we want to have small group and virtual meetings, information gathering sessions. Again, same thing as we're doing with our annual action plan. Finding out what the needs of the communities are through needs assessments. And then we want to create steering committees where we're including residents in our meetings to see what the needs are so that we can build together. Funding is going to be crucial. We do not want to rely solely on the general fund. We want to, we have contracts right now for grant management. We want to expand upon those contracts so that we can apply for any and every grant that's out there, regardless of department. What we realize is there's so many avenues to generate funds and to meet the needs of the community, to promote housing, to get businesses. We just have to apply. So we want to be aggressive in grant and loan management. We want to start reaching out to a pool of developers and investors using our philanthropic partners and also our private partners. So we've been working really hard to align ourselves. Next slide. What we're looking to create here is public value. We want to make sure that our residents have something to be proud of, that they have something that is invested in them and something that we've invested in them. We hope to create adequate housing, a skilled workforce, business opportunities, access to healthy foods, improved transit, and healthy neighborhoods. We know that it's going to affect our tax base, our residents, our real estate tax base, income tax base, health providers and education system. We're meeting now with Mercy Health and YSU to do strategic planning together because they are a crucial part of how this community heals and how we redevelop. Again, access to jobs and food and medical services, improved housing options. The initiatives we're taking is our 2020 housing strategy. We worked really hard with YNDC to create this, and we want to make sure that that we're moving it. Workforce development, we have partners now with workforce development. We want to make sure that when economic development is out and soliciting jobs and business to come here, that we have the skills to meet those jobs. So as we're marketing and as these prospects are in our pipeline, we want to work with our workforce development partners to align the skill sets so that our residents are ready for those jobs. Transit, we've been working with WRTA on their transit study to make sure that the transportation takes our residents to the community, to their jobs, to the stores, where they need to be. We don't want them bypassing the city to go somewhere else. So we're working with them to make sure that we can connect our residents to these areas. Again, redesigning the ridership, and then funding. We've put a lot into our community policing. We want to make sure that our residents in our neighborhoods are safe. We have a street light plan that we want to start updating. And then also, again, improving our parks and making sure that code enforcement is improved. Next slide. With regard to housing, here's our first step in our implementation of our housing strategy. We've presented the information in a previous meeting, and we're looking for adoption of the strategy so that we can start moving on our second phase. Next slide. Access to healthy foods. Again, we have a corner store initiative. We've been really looking and mapping where our corner stores are. We want to align with the corner stores to have healthy foods in the stores. So we're no longer just allowing, permission and granting permits just because someone wants to have a pop-up store. We want to make sure that if you're going to bring a store into this neighborhood, that you're having healthy foods that our residents can access. We're also working with retail strategies. We wanted to bring them on last year But with, again, the pandemic, a lot of the trade shows and the in-person events that they would have used to market the city didn't happen because of the pandemic. However, we are engaging with them now to help us build up our current business pool. And then we're looking again for them to market us and to do some studies with us so that we can see where we can have full service grocery stores here in our city. Next slide. Our workforce development partners, again, Flying High, Eastern Gateway Community College, YSU Strategic Workforce and Innovation Center, an Education Center, and then Work Advance. So they're looking at literacy. They are helping individuals who do not currently have a high school diploma get their equivalency. Along with that, again, there's skill training, there's digital literacy, and then they're seeing what else is out there in the industry. They're looking regionally to say, what regional skills and talents can we bring to this city so that we can compete? Next. Business opportunities. We spoke about our Buy Local app. We are working with Eastgate on a broadband expansion project. We realized, I believe we were second in the state for the weakest broadband and linkage for internet access. So we're working with Eastgate on a project now to increase our broadband. Our designated outdoor refreshment area is something that we did start last year. We want to make sure that that's completed by first quarter so that we can roll this out to help our downtown businesses and our outskirt businesses as well. Business startup online. This is something that we discussed last year, and we're working on this project to be completed first quarter. We want to help our businesses understand where they are in steps, in phases. We don't want to continue this cycle of, unfortunately, our new business owners not knowing where to go, not knowing, what help is out there, and just not knowing what steps they need to take to open. So we're looking at a process where, if you need financing, you're starting at step 1. If you have all your financing in place and all you need is a business, maybe you start at step 6 or 7. That'll be something we'll be rolling out as well. Welcome to the City of You. We're finding out all the time through our media outlets and the news and Facebook that new businesses are popping up. We want to go out and meet them and welcome them to the City of You. We want to have an access to, our web portal where we can connect them with other business people, where, they can go online and market themselves, and we can help them with that opportunity. So we're working on a packet that we can get out to them to welcome them to the city. And that way we can stay connected to them so that we're not, again, finding out in the media that businesses are closing. If we have some type of network where we can stay in touch with them, we can better help them. Special Improvement District, this is something that's been discussed, and I know there's been many meetings for several years, and we're looking to finally close the deal on this. COVID and grant outreach, we're continuing that. Minority Business Outreach Assistance, again, this is a new contract that we started, and we're looking for great things to come out of that with our minorities, offering technical assistance to them, as well as some startup monies. Minority procurement, we want to make sure that when it comes to contracts that, our minority businesses are right in line with the rest of the businesses. Commercial land assembly, as well as, residential, but it's not under here, but commercial land assembly, as I discussed earlier, when businesses are scouting us, we have a direct network to the regional chamber, and they'll send us leads. And a lot of times, these businesses want land right now. We need to know what we have so that we can compete, so we can be in line when these businesses want to come here with the land that we've already assembled. And that's going to take a joint effort. That's going to take some code. That's going to take some demolition. That's going to take, some to make sure that whatever, Chuck needs to do on the infrastructure. And this is why we're all working together as a team to make this happen. And we spoke about retail strategies and then our COVID business stabilization plan. So these are what we're looking forward to in 2021 with regard to economic development. Next slide. Improved transit. We talked about the transit study with WRTA. our Glenwood Avenue Corridor Grant we just applied for, Eastgate, the autonomous shuttle, electronic vehicles. We want to add some bikeable lanes and some walking paths. We want connectivity to our park. We have one of the most beautiful parks, Mill Creek Park, and you know, we've heard it many, many times that, you know, it's hidden in the city. How do you get to the park? Where are the signs? Where, you know, how do we want to connect? We want to walk and bike from our homes right to the park. So again, we're meeting with Mill Creek to see how we can strategically work together to make it a seamless transition from the suburbs to the city to the park. Next slide. Nick. Healthy neighborhoods. Again, we need to heal the neighborhood by making sure it's clean, making sure it's visible, making sure that there's access. We have some corridor initiatives. Some are in the works and some we want to work on. We've talked about sidewalks, corners, gray zones, walking and biking access. Again, connecting the park to the city. Streetlights committee is something that was talked about in a couple other meetings, and the mayor's dedicated to putting together a streetlight committee where we work with First Energy to say, hey, we need our lights on. We need these communities to be lit and safe. Code enforcement and planning, we're we're realizing how closely we need to work with code enforcement with regard to land acquisition, with regard to special assessments, with regards to, you know, businesses coming in and making sure that they're following the guidelines that they should be following. We're still working on some cleanup grants with our abandoned gas stations. And we also want to start looking at our car lots. We don't want our corners, for lack of a better word, littered with car lots. We want residents to drive our cities and drive our streets and see the beauty of our city, and instead of cars all over the place on each corner. So we're trying to figure out how we can move the lots maybe to the back, but that's something that we'll be working on as well in 2021. Vacant lots, we're talking about, again, assembling our vacant lots in a mow-to-own program. Next slide. Here's our strategic team. It's not all inclusive, but this is who we've been working with in 2020. We want to continue relationships in 2021. And I think our final slide is just some logos of our team. And that's it. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nikki. I have a couple questions. In the beginning, we were talking about the importance of the landlord, like rental registration. Who's currently doing that?
We have a committee with YNDC, MyCap, Catholic Charities, Code Enforcement, and Community Legal Aid. So we've been meeting regularly on that. But from the city's standpoint, it would be Mike Durkin, mm-hmm. who would be our contact.
Okay. And then another question I had, you were referencing having community meetings and like community input. And I believe maybe we briefly touched on this at a previous meeting, but how are you, I guess, informing the public that we're having these meetings? Is there any other outreach other than having it on the city's website?
We've been successful using Economic Action Group. Whenever we're having meetings, they create postcards for us. So they're getting the postcards out. So as we start having the meetings in the different wards, we want to work with the block watch groups. We want to work with the council people to see how do we, you know, and we know it's almost impossible to do it citywide virtually. So we want to break it up in segments, whether it's block watch or whether it's, you know, your ward, and we'll use our advertising through Economic Action Group to help us with postcards and Facebook message and however else we need to do it, as well as using the media.
Thank you. Any questions for my colleagues? Julius?
Thank you, through the chair. Been listening. Everything sounds great. Question is, all of this the entire list is a list of things we have either been doing or talking about doing for years, even before this administration. Um, it all sounds good packaged into this one presentation. The question is, what makes it real now? How do you present this to the community as if it's actually going to happen when these are suggestions from the community, from council people, from other stakeholders that have all been in the pipeline and been talked about for a very long time now? Like it all sounds great to be presented now in this package, but what makes this any different than what we've been talking about for years? How does this move forward now? You know, the connectivity to the park, the bike paths. I mean, all of this isn't new. It sounds really great, but what makes it real? If I don't know if I'm asking the question right, I understand it. I don't know if you guys understand it, but what's going to make this happen? What's going to make this happen now? Why now, and why not for the last 3-4 years?
Through the chair,
Nikki.
I cannot speak to the past. What I want to speak about is how I envision us moving forward. Again, planning together. I don't know if planning together and pulling all the departments together to see what resources we have. I can't speak to what happened then, but I know now this is new to me. And it may be repetitive to some of you, but it's new to me. I'm excited to move forward with it. We have some partners in place. If they were in place before, I don't know what stopped them from moving forward, but I do see forward movement. What's going to happen is accountability. That's how you get it done. Getting it out to the community, telling them what we're going to do, working with them to get it done, and being accountable to making sure that it's done. Everybody has a role. It can't just be the city and a couple of people in the city making this happen. Everybody and all of our partners that I listed there has a role in this. So I think as long as we're together and the community is engaged together, we'll start moving together. But we can't just keep rolling something out and expecting it to happen without the capacity to do it. And the capacity is enough staffing and enough community support, enough stakeholder support, and getting those partnerships together that are already. And another thing that we found out is that, as we're presenting things, some of our partners we're doing the same thing. So we keep reinventing the wheel and everybody working and doing the same thing differently and not coming together and making it happen. So, we may have Eastgate working on something or YNDC working on something, but we've not talked. So everybody has a plan independently that's really not benefiting the city because we weren't connecting. We didn't connect our resources. So I think that's what we're doing differently. I hope that's what we're doing differently. And I'm looking forward to having, this move on. I don't know if there's someone else from my team who wants to speak to how things were, but that's what I see.
Let me ask this other thing. So
Wait, 1 second, Julius. I just would like to state for the record that Councilwoman Samantha Turner is in the meeting with us, but go ahead.
So a lot of the partners that we have now are partners that we've already had, and a lot of these initiatives have actually come from meetings and presentations and initiatives from those partners. YNDC, EAG. I mean, this, like I said, this stuff isn't new. So is our economic development department better equipped somehow now to execute these things? Because I think we have the same people in economic development. Hunter is a great addition to the team, but we had more economic development without Hunter on the team in the past. So what I'm saying is, what's the unifying force in economic development to make all of these things actually happen? Or is it going to be these new positions that you're asking for? Because all of these players for the most part, especially the people I see on this meeting today, were already in place. So what's the difference now? If you understand what I'm saying, because we've been here.
Through the chair,
Yes, Mayor.
if I could, Councilman, what you're finding that many of the players in the past were in positions, but they were not in the right position. What you're finding now, you're finding leadership and teamwork. You're finding someone who can coach in those various positions. A plan is only a plan unless it gets off the paper. So you have someone now coaching and leading in those positions. And we've brought individuals in to realize some people were out of their position. They're not in the right position. So it's going to take that communication, but it's also going to take somebody driving that team down the field to get across the goal line. So I think right now, if when Nikki's telling you, here's the things we want to do, here's our goals and expectations, you got to realize there are benchmarks we've got to hit. You set a goal, you look at your goals and objectives, then everyone has their roles and responsibilities. And we come back on our monthly and our weekly team planning and development meetings. Everyone has an action plan. Here's what you need to be doing. Here's your roles and responsibilities. When we come together again, have your assignment. If you missed the assignment or assignment couldn't be achieved, then we got to figure out why you didn't. So it's a long process. Planning is it takes years. If you look at anything that's coming out of planning, it takes a while, but you got to have action. You got to have everybody in the right position, but you also have to have a coach and someone who's organizing that team and making sure those who are in the position are in the right position that they can achieve those goals.
Julius.
Through the chair. So coach or Mayor Nikki, one of y'all is the coach. Are there still players that need to be moved around within economic development in order to execute this play? Can we get in the end zone with people in the positions that there are now? Or do we still need to very strategically sit some people on the bench and start some new players?
Through the chair, I do have a restructure plan that I want to discuss, and I guess that will be our next topic whenever you're ready, Madam Chairman.
Councilman McNally.
Thanks. So your strategic priorities for 2021 are many. This seems like a really long list. Is your plan to accomplish all these things? How many of these things are already actually in motion, and how many are still, we're keeping with our analogy here, waiting on the sidelines? Mm-hmm. It seems like you're gonna need some more. Your some of that restructuring plan that you want to do. You're gonna need that if you want to accomplish all of this in a short amount of time. Because like Julia said, we've been talking about doing these things for years at this point. So like, where are you at with everything that you listed off? Really, like from slide 7 on to the end here.
Through the chair, Nick, can you throw the PowerPoint back up?
Pulling that up right now.
Thank you. If you can go to the other way. 5. So when I talk about what I want to achieve this year, we're talking about adequate housing, skilled workforce, business opportunity, access to healthy foods, improved transit, and healthy neighborhoods. Those are the priorities. How we're going to get there come in different activities. So again, with housing, we have the strategy. With the workforce, we have workforce partners that we're working with regularly to make sure that when businesses come here, that we're in line. The opportunities that you saw in the business opportunities, we expect all of those to be accomplished this year. Some of them first quarter. If you can go to the business opportunity slide. The first quarter business opportunities that we're already in motion and ready to close, the Kulu app, the Dora, Business Startup in a Day, the Welcome Packet, Special Improvement District, we're working with Cityscape on that. Minority Business Outreach, we can approve, all of these can be accomplished this year. Every last one of these priorities. Housing is gonna be a long-term plan. That's gonna be a long-term plan. We're not, what we're doing now is where, you know, what do we have, where, what opportunities can go there, who can we help develop it? So that's gonna be a long-term plan. With regard to workforce development, again, we have our partners and that's gonna be fluid. We're gonna add partners. There may be some partners that don't work, but we're not gonna stop moving forward. The corner store initiative, we've already looked at that. We've already started that with our planning process. As we've had individual business people come to us and want to put corner stores in some of your neighborhoods. And we've talked to them and said, listen, you have to meet these thresholds. This is what we're looking for. We don't want another pop-up convenience store gas station. We have too many. What else can you offer? How else can we help you? So those are already in motion. With regard to access to healthy foods, we are part of the Healthy Foods Initiative partnership, along with the health department. These are things that we're already doing. This is why we have the contract with Retail Strategies. Where can we put the healthy foods? How can that happen? Looking at just a whole, we've had grocers meetings with current grocers to see what their needs are. Do they want to expand into the different wards? And there's some restrictions even with that, but yeah, I believe that we can impact each area of those topics. Will it be completely done? Absolutely not, because we got to keep it moving. We got to change, we got to update, but there will be impact in all of those areas as long as we continue the team, as long as everybody, again, is accountable to doing their part. Like the mayor said, there's accountability. Everybody has to bring something to the table.
Through the chair.
Yes, Julius.
Who are you guys talking to about this stuff? I mean, grocers and corner stores, you talk about engaging the community, but I know I haven't had any communication with the administration or you guys about corner stores going anywhere. So I'm guessing it's not in my ward. I'm guessing
Correct. It wasn't in your ward.
Specific council people in those wards. But how are you engaging the community on these things? And where are you getting your input for all of this? Because I know the input isn't, I don't know who you guys are really talking to. I would say to move forward, for this to be successful, engaging the representation of the citizens is going to be very important. And when it comes to housing, I don't think that needs to take a long time. I mean, I'm meeting with a bank this month about putting a program that's based on our tax incentives for remodeling and building new homes in a place throughout the city. It doesn't have to be an identifying, you know, like trying to piece these properties together, because the properties are already there. So what I'm saying is, how many banks are you guys communicating with to make this a real thing for the community? Because it's just a conversation.
Through the chair.
To make this a real thing. Is this, that's what I keep trying to get to my point. What makes this more than just plans? What makes this a real thing? Where are we in the process? And when do we start running these plays? I mean, I'm not really hearing what gets us to the end zone on these things. It's like a wish list, but I don't really see the real action behind it unless it just hasn't been communicated to council yet.
Through the chair.
Yes, Sharon, and first I want to ask, are we done with the screen so then Nick can take it off so I can see everybody back on screen?
Sorry, Nick. Yes.
Thank you. Sharon, and then Lauren had her hand up.
Okay, one moment. I was looking at that screen, so I'm going to pull it up on my, so
Sorry.
that I can reference back to, that's okay, to Councilman Oliver's questions. In terms of the projects that I am working on, the Colu Buy Local app has already moved past the memorandum of agreement. I've had weekly meetings with the technology company in terms of the content of the app. The agreements themselves are what's kind of taken some time for them to be able to put some of these things in action. We've had communication with local organizations about what ways they can be partners with us. I sent out a overview of the app, I think back in November or December to council to let everyone know that this was coming up in the pipeline. The COVID-19 Business Stabilization Grant, that has already rolled out. I put that program together for the last 6 months, making sure that all of the CDBG regulations were in place and that the program was structured appropriately. We've contracted with Valley Partners Economic Development Corporation to take in the applications, and then forward after their review, our department will be moving forward with the agreements and connecting them to technical assistance providers. Retail strategies, that agreement is already underway. We've already had one webinar with our businesses. There are a series of technical assistance grants or technical assistance sessions that we are putting together with our existing businesses, and we have a plan to move forward with landowners in terms of advancing their properties and marketing them in a way that we can connect them with potential development opportunities. There is a schedule of how we're going to do that, and that agreement is finalized. All of the minority assistance, we have contracted with Carmela Williams and her group. They are putting their plans together and looking to roll that out. So in terms of the initiatives that I'm directly connected to and working with, those are already underway.
Through the chair.
Yes, Julius.
Thank you for that, Sharon. As far as the app goes, is that something that's already paid for? And how much is that?
It is a funding source that we're able to tap into with the CARES Act funding in terms of focusing on trying to help our retail and restaurants advance and keep them open and operating and providing them with support to do so. I have to look at the numbers. I want to say we were in the area of just under $5,000 for their services. And we will be putting a rewards budget together for the discounts that our residents can receive. And that will be in the area of 10,000.
So that went through the Board of Control?
Yes, it did.
Through the chair, I'd like to speak about the initiative with housing. The housing, your question about housing and how it not taking so long. We have a housing strategy that is going to be our template. That is our plan. That's what we're asking council to adopt so that we can move forward with those plans, with the housing strategy.
So through the chair, follow up.
Yes.
So with that plan, is there a focus on advertising the remodeling and new construction tax abatements, or do we have a plan of, instead of putting $5,000 to $10,000 into demolishing homes, to put $5,000 to $10,000 into refurbishing those homes and getting them ready to be put into recirculation? How's that working?
Through the chair, we put CDBG dollars into home rehab. So we already have those monies out there to rehab homes. But as far as just the plan going forward, it's not just a rehabilitation plan, it's a new development plan as well.
Of course, that's the plan we're working with YNDC for.
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you.
Lauren's had her hand up.
Thanks. I guess I just wanted to point out a few things. Just like we said more in response to Julius's original questions and comments that we've been talking about this stuff for a really long time, but we've never talked about it with all these people that are currently on the meeting today. We've never had, representatives from EAG on our economic development committee meetings. It's always just been council and the economic development director on these meetings. So I think that's one thing to point out, that we've just expanded our communication right there. And so that's a good place to start with, being able to actually see action being taken. I also think that we've expanded the economic development department over the last handful of years. And I feel like when I started on council, it was just Sharon, and that wasn't that long ago. So that again is another step towards being able to put this plan into action instead of just continuing to talk about it. So I do think that everything you're saying and presenting to us is very attainable by the team that's been put together over the last couple of years, by the inclusion of people in conversations like this, in meetings like this. I see changes that you've put in place, Nikki, that allow me to believe that you can actually take what we've been talking about for years and make them a reality now. So those are just small things, but they're things. I also think even just by you sort of having that dual role of chief of staff too, means you have your hand in every department, so you can open those doors of communication with all the departments and know what's going on in them and better align with them. And I think that that's an advantage for you and in this department. So it was just more comment there that I wanted to make, that I have seen changes that make me think that, we're not going to just be sitting here next year talking about this list again, but it's going to be on your accomplishments list instead of on your, priorities list.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do. That means a lot. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because same, just a comment. I think that's along the lines of what Councilman Oliver was saying. I think the frustration lies that we've been talking about. It had all of these things in place, and now it seemed like now we're waiting to the fourth quarter to run all the plays. Why did we wait to the fourth quarter? But I think, in the year that you've been here, you've been doing a great job and able to piece it all together. So then, as Lauren mentioned, hopefully now we can actually take the action steps to make these things come to fruition rather than keep talking about it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions regarding the CPED goals? So then we can move on to the restructuring. Yes, Julius. No. Oh. Okay. Nikki, if you want to go ahead and move on to the restructuring of the department.
Sure. Nick? Thank you. Okay, next slide. So we talked about our current table of organization and how we're currently structured. I want to start with our community development division. Currently, again, we have Beverly as the director / planner. I just put, for sake of activity, director on this slide. There's a business support position that's open because we did lose a secretary. And I want to talk a little bit about how we want to plan that a little differently. Fiscal officer, a compliance director that's open, and an assistant compliance director. Moving on to the next slide to talk about how we want to restructure this differently. For community development, I believe I informed council a little while ago that HUD requires us to have, because of our size and the entitlement dollars, we have to have a minimum of 4 employees on staff to move forward with the HUD program. we currently are now down to 3. We did contract during the consolidated plan with someone to work as the compliance director. We're ready to move on now to make a permanent position in that department. So right now, what we want to change, the assistant compliance director, we want to change it to, compliance officer. We did work with civil service to change some job duties under the compliance director. This is what we're going to hire. And we're also going to change that name too. I left it on here, compliance director, because that's still how it is under civil service. But I don't want to have too many people called director. I think there's too many and it can cause for confusion. So we're looking for compliance administrator, a compliance officer. So that job description that's currently compliance director won't change, just the name. We want to eliminate the secretary position or not post for it. Because what we want to focus on is an office CDBG administrator. We need someone who understands HUD language and can help navigate with the subrecipients and with the monitoring and with the fiscal piece of HUD. So we want someone with a HUD background rather than a secretary. You know, Beverly and Rich and Rufus, they do a good job of, you know, kind of their own office management, if you will, with regards to their phones and that kind of thing. But we need someone focused, helping out with HUD. And a housing administrator. We have this housing plan now. We need someone to help us implement it. So those are the job descriptions that we're going to ask for new: the housing administrator and the CDBG office administrator. Justification for why we want to restructure it this way. Again, we're an entitlement community, and HUD requires us to take on various measures to make sure that their federal monies are monitored and that we have the right oversight. It is a huge undertaking. I can't speak enough, again, on the work. I thought it was something that I can come on and do myself. And I'm so grateful to have the team that I did have, because they worked tirelessly to get these this product out for you. Again, we are managing a total of $7 million just in what was awarded to us through this current cycle, fiscal year. Over $3 million in 2020 block grant. COVID relief, we got 1.6 million. And then with our ESG and supplemental funding, we got another 1.7. So monitoring this is a huge undertaking. So if you look at our proposed restructure, we want to have the CD director. We want to keep the fiscal officer in the same position. We want a housing administrator. We're still working with ML Consultants. That's an open contract. And again, they have a direct connection with HUD. They work with other communities. They were pretty much HUD's resource and reach out for us. When we were looking for someone to help us with this consolidated plan, our HUD rep recommended this consultant. So we still have that open-ended contract to help us through the annual action plan to stay in line with the consolidated plan. The compliance director, again, we want to change that name to compliance administrator. We're going to need a CDBG office administrator and a compliance officer. Now, when it comes to the COVID dollars, those come under different criteria when it comes to monitoring those dollars. So we're just looking to contract for someone to, we don't want that to be it doesn't need to be a permanent position. We're just looking for someone to contract to help us manage those dollars with the subrecipient. It's a little different oversight. So until those those COVID dollars are expended, we just want a contract for someone to help us oversee those. Next slide. I want to be able here in this community development definition to help get a better understanding of why a planner and a community development director are different. So if I could just read through this real quick. Community development is the process for making a community a better place to work and live. HUD's definition of that is to seek to develop viable communities by promoting, excuse me, I'm reading too fast, integrated approaches that provide decent housing, suitable living environment, and expand economic activity and opportunities for low and moderate income persons. The primary means towards this end is the development of partnerships among all levels of government, private sectors, and nonprofit organizations. So With regard to planning and community development, they are not synonymous. They're two separate kind of practices and skill sets. Planning is on the ground tangibles. Planning is, you hear Hunter talk all the time about connectivity. How are people going to get there? What are they going to do? How do, connectivity. Community development is quality of life. How can I make your life better? How can I improve upon what you have? What are the social needs that you have? Those are two totally different skill sets. Implementation of policies and practices through our consolidated plan and our annual action plan, using those entitlement funds, that is what community development is all about. That's what the director of community development's charge is, to make sure the quality of life is better for the residents living in the city. So the principles in carrying out HUD's mission, community building begins with job creation, employment, creation of safe and decent affordable housing, planning and execution of community development initiatives, bottom up. Councilman Oliver talk all the time, how do you get the people engaged? This is what community development is. Complex problems require coordinated and sustainable solutions, meaning you have to understand the community, you have to understand the makeup of the community, you have to understand what HUD requires in order to move forward with the right plan. And streamlining meaning it can't be the process can't be so convoluted that we create more barriers and remove them. The whole goal of community development is to remove barriers for residents in the community and not create barriers. So that's the justification as to why I really feel we need to separate the community development director from the planning director position. With regard to economic development, again, our structure, we currently have Vicky and Sharon, two people in economic development. There, at one point when I first came on, there was a secretary who left. I'm just looking to fill that support role. We have COVID business outreach with EAG. We have minority business outreach. We're going to need someone to kind of help navigate through those things and just get some office work done for each of those areas now that we've contracted and expanded that capacity. Next slide. With regard to planning, again, I'm asking to fill the planning director position. I did have a meeting with Kyle. He did not include a planner in the 2021 budget. He had it in a 2020 budget. We didn't use it. We just continued on with our agreement with Hunter as our consultant. I'd like to continue that through the end of the year, because what I didn't want to do is and I'm asking to renew Hunter's contract as well, because what I didn't want to do is end this contract and get a planner in right now while we have all this momentum going. And, I heard council say, I don't want to hire someone to be training someone to take the position. We need the work done now. So we're hoping that we're doing the work now so that by the time we can kind of transition into 2022, that this city has a planner. Hunter came with this administration, and Hunter's going to leave either with or before, this administration. So, God forbid, there's a new administration in. I'm saying God forbid for my sake too, but God forbid there's a new administration in, and then there's no planner, and we're right back where we were. We had all these plans, we had all this movement, and now we stopped. So I really think it is crucial that, at least by the end of this year, the first of next year, that we have a planner in place. Business support. There is no business support right now. We have been working really closely with supports from code enforcement. They've been really helpful in kind of keeping the line of communication open. Our land and our code and all of that kind of work hand in hand. With regard to land reutilization, if you saw in a previous chart, this position said zoning analyst, and it was Karen Perkins' position. Karen is retiring at the end of this month. She'd be gone after the end of this month. What we've realized in kind of assessing and in team building, and we've been looking through all job descriptions to see what their strengths are, what needs changed. Since we've moved zoning specialists under code, a lot of the duties, some of the duties overlapped with the zoning analysts. And just for a sake of separation and consistency, we thought that position could go ahead and be dissolved. What we really need is what Karen has been spending a lot of time focusing on, is someone to focus on land realization. So we do have a job description that we are going to ask to present for a land realization officer. I do want to, of course, run it through civil service and make sure we're following the right protocols, but I want to dissolve the analyst position and create a land realization position immediately since Karen will be leaving. We really don't want to, again, have a lapse in service because we've come so far. We're moving in the right direction. And I just don't want there to be any gaps in what we're doing. What I've also provided here is some examples of what other cities are doing. The city of Akron, here is their kind of economic development department. That's their team. This is how many people are actively working in the city of Akron for economic development.
Julius, did you have a question related to?
Yeah, okay, so just a point of clarity for a minute. You want to, when Karen retires, instead of filling her position, you want to create a new position?
Through the chair. So what we found out in kind of looking at the structure of the department, there was a position created for land bank, but for some reason, I don't know that it was ever adopted or approved, but there is a position there, and it's the duties that Karen has been actively doing. So the challenge for me was, if I had to evaluate Karen as a zoning analyst, her duties didn't align with her job description because she was doing some zoning, I don't want to take away from that. She was definitely doing zoning, but the majority of her job was land bank, but there was no position for it. So what I want to do is right size this and have the position for the duties that were already being done. There were duties that she kind of learned over the years and just took on and we're doing, but there was no position for it. So that's, if that makes sense.
It sounds weird. So we're creating a new position to do the job that Karen currently does, but that she's not supposed to do?
Yes. Well, according to her job description as a zoning analyst, there's no land bank duties in that job description.
So will in essence, does Karen's position carry a certain classification?
She's management.
Okay. So we're not going to fill that position, or we are going to fill that position, but then Karen's old position will be used only for what then?
Karen's old position, I just want to dissolve it. I don't need it. Those duties are being taken on under code enforcement. So I want to dissolve the position and put on paper and approve the duties that she was doing, which is land realization.
And well, Karen's position, does that require dealing with like Jonathan Huff and his department when it comes to, I don't know what I'm trying to say here.
Are you referencing being eligible for that position, like what the hiring process would be?
Right, so I'm guessing Karen's position would have to have carried a certain skill set in order to have that position. So, which I'm guessing you probably would have to deal with land acquisition and her job. I know her job is very extensive. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna create a position where you can just fill that position with anybody. So it will no longer be, so are we trying to save money? I'm trying to wrap my head around why we wouldn't, especially at a time where we're trying to shore up or make economic development stronger. Why would we
Chair,
take away a position that seemed like it's a civil service commission position, and then just we can just put anybody in that position then?
Through the chair?
Yes, Nikki.
The position that I'm creating, so when Karen leaves, if I were to keep the position that Karen currently has as a zoning analyst and use that job description and hire someone as a zoning analyst, who's going to do land? I don't have anybody to do land bank. There's no position.
Karen did both.
Correct.
So why wouldn't we just fill the position with somebody that it does both? Like you, chief of staff and head of economic development.
So I guess could the job description be modified?
If I modify the job, what I'm saying is, through the chair, I apologize. Through the chair, I don't necessarily need to fill the zoning analyst portion because we've moved zoning, all components of zoning under code enforcement. So I no longer need to fill the zoning component of that job. What I really need to strengthen is the land bank component of that job. That was never included in the job description.
So why wouldn't you then just move the land bank over into code enforcement and zoning as well?
There's no position for it. There's no current position for it for land bank. So I want to create the position. And the reason I want it under my department is for planning purposes, for economic development purposes, and for community development and housing purposes. We work alongside of code enforcement, but I don't believe in that, and Mike as well, we've talked about this, that job needs to land under code.
Sounds like we finally need to have a zoning committee meeting. I don't understand this. I don't understand why. I mean, out of everything we've talked about in our planning for housing and land acquisition and land banking, why eliminate a position where it seems like you would want somebody to have a required skill set?
Through the chair, what I'm saying is I do need somebody to have a required skill set. The person who's doing that job inherited these duties, but it was never memorialized or confirmed as an actual position. What I'm trying to do is make it an actual position. I'm taking the duties that Karen was doing as a zoning analyst, doing land bank work and making it a land bank, performing the duties of land bank under the title of land bank realization administrator or officer or whatever we're going to call it. But again, currently the duties exist because someone who here has the historical knowledge and learned it, the skill set that learned it, but it was never a created position. It's not on our master salary.
I'm done, through the chair.
Nikki, just quickly, what would the requirements be for someone to have this position? Like, is this going to be posted internally, or this is?
Through the chair, I'm sorry. I would like to post it internally first, but I'll share with you. I can forward you the job description that we've proposed.
Lauren, you had your hand up.
That was going to be my question. If we could have the job description, perhaps even sharing Karen's current job description might help us compare the two, and then the one for this new position that you're looking to create. And then is your intent to remove from the master salary ordinance Karen's job title, zoning analyst job title?
Through the chair, if I would really like to do is just go through that whole master salary and remove some of the kind of dead jobs off of there. Yes, it's just not something that we're utilizing right now because of the duties and how we've kind of divvied them out and repurposed them over to code. This is crucial. And that's why I wanted to be a focus on land reutilization with the title called Land Reutilization Officer. to post it as a zoning analyst and then require them to do land bank, which is not in the job description, to me would be counterproductive, I guess. So I will definitely send you the current job description of zoning analyst, and then the one where I'm proposing to, I guess, swap out is all I want to do, is swap out.
Laura, did you have follow-up?
Nope, that's all I
No,
wanted.
Julius?
Thank you, through the chair. I just got two things. So I think we could probably just update Karen's position rather than creating a new position. And second thing, if we're already, because it sounds like you thought this through, if we are already deciding to pull somebody internally, do we already have this person in mind?
Through the chair, I have no one in mind. The process that I know to do is to always post internally before you go out. So no, I don't have anyone in mind.
So are we in any way trying to avoid the civil service process to fill this position or create a new position?
I'm not avoiding any process at all. If I can get someone in here, if I can post it and get someone internally and they still have to go through whatever testing has to be done, then that needs to be done. If we have to contract for it, I need someone in this position because Karen's going to be leaving and we have these, all I know is I need a body to cover the duties that Karen wasn't doing. I can work with Jonathan to help me through the process. I have no problem with that, but I'm not trying to circumvent any processes to get this done. I just need someone with the skill set that can understand land and code, has an extensive background in both, that can get into this position seamlessly.
Thank you. I'm like I said, I'm just trying to understand why not just update the job title and the description and hire a person that's qualified to be able to do Karen's job.
And through the chair, if that's the easier route to go, then I'm okay with that too. I just know there's a lot of duties and we've added some that need to be done. So I just figured it was the cleaner way is to just start fresh, because again, there was a position, I have it, and I'll share with that as well. There is a land bank job description, but civil service, like it was never, I guess, adopted or whatever the terminology is. So there was a position that was created years ago. It was just never confirmed. So
Thank you.
I will share that.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So again, this is the City of Akron's chart for economic development. Next slide, Nick. This is their planning. They call it planning and urban development, and they have a development engineering team. Public life, which I thought was kind of really cool because this is kind of where their parks are and their entertainment, all under one department. Next slide. I also received the chart for Toledo, who is another city partner of ours that I work closely with, and you know, kind of just how they do things and how they've gotten ahead. So they've shared their planning commission chart. So this is their complete planning commission, their Department of Neighborhoods, which would be comparable to our community development division, and then their economic development division. Thank you, Nick. I wanted to show those slides and those comparisons from other cities, just so you can see the skill set in the, Nick, you can unshare, and the size of their staff and what they're working with, and you know, the supports, the different skill sets they have in place. I'm really proud of the staff that I have and the hard work that they've put in this past year, but I do understand you know, the financial restraints we're in. I understand, you know, you're getting a lot of been there, done that. But we cannot activate some of these plans that we have in place without the additional supports that I'm asking for. We really need the supports, and they're cost neutral. There is not going to cost the city another dollar than what was already budgeted for those supports. The help that we're asking for in the community development will be under HUD admin funds. So that's not impacting our general fund. The business support that we're asking for economic development was already there We have a secretary position that we didn't fill. So we just want to fill the positions that were kind of vacated. It's no impact to our general fund bottom line. And those are all my reports.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Julius?
Thank you through the chair. Nikki, I see your process. I see your vision. It looks great. Really hoping we can, score these touchdowns here in the fourth quarter. Need to put me on the field, just let me know. I suit up. Mayor, how does all of this help you achieve your overall vision for the city? How does all these strategic plans within economic development help you get to where you're going, to where you see the city?
Through the chair, Councilman, it's a good question. These are some of those things you see are real short term, and then some are long term. And I think we want to make sure that the focus this year is to really talk about impact zones. We want to make sure that we have goals and objectives, benchmarks, but we want to see some tangible outcomes. And this is how we're going to do it. There are some other team members who are not there, and we're going to find some team members across the nation or across the state that we may need to bring in. So we're focusing on impact. We're going to talk about, when we talk about impact zones, we're talking about going into the entire neighborhood. We'll do a housing assessment. We'll do a grocery assessment. We'll do a transportation assessment. And then we take the team in and really start implementing that, working with, and the thing I think you say a lot, and I hear you, is that you can't plan for a neighborhood, you plan with them and getting the neighborhoods involved. And that, when I say the neighborhoods, those are the members who represent that neighborhood as well, the members of council. That's why we're asking for your priorities and asking, what do you think? What do you see in there? It takes a while to plan. And I worked at the university for some time. Some projects would start, they were 18-month planning projects, and then it would take 2 years to build, and you would see it 4 or 5 years down the road. That's why it takes a real long time to plan, because you got to have all the pieces in place before you start. You don't want to start a shotgun approach. You want to make sure you have all the pieces in place, and you're not going to have it perfect. You're going to find some pieces that are not there that you didn't realize that needs to come about. I think the prime example is Nikki talking about the jobs and duties that Karen that she was doing. And we realized what she was hired to do, that she's not doing that. That position is not doing that anymore. And those roles and responsibilities went over to code enforcement, but you need someone to deal with land bank and maybe we need to just go to civil service and let's change the roles and change the title of that. So all these pieces are in place. That's why you continue to communicate with your team. You have regular team meetings and making sure all the assignments are there. But we're going to make sure that we have some impact zones impacting the city and in the community.
Through the chair, if I can add one more point to Councilman Oliver, I was smiling when you said that, let you know if we need you to suit up and jump in, and we do. One of the things I had reached out when I first came on board to all council members to really sit down and meet with you to see what, your expectations of me were and what your expectations of our department were. And I did meet with some of you, and we're starting the process now. Unfortunately, and I hate to keep using it as an excuse, but it is the reason, the pandemic got in the way and really absorbed a lot of my time in having those regular meetings with you all. When there's something in your ward, I try to reach out as much as I can, and we all need to do a better job of communicating. I'll be first to say that, but I need all of you. We can't do this just with this team here and the partners that we have. We can't do it. It will not work unless we have your support. Hear what you have to say. It's your ward. You represent the citizens. We have to do it together. So I appreciate your offer, and I'm absolutely going to take you up on it.
Julius?
Something I'd be willing to definitely help out with is achieving at least 3 tangibles for the first quarter. What would those be, and how can we make sure we're gonna knock these 3 things out? We want to put something on the table now out of this entire plan. What are the 3 tangibles we can look forward to making happen as a team within the first quarter? I don't even
Special improvement district. I definitely want the special improvement district. Designated outdoor refreshment area would be another one. And I want to get our housing implementation. I need the housing person on staff so that we can implement our housing strategy. So those three would be my first quarter initiatives.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions so we can move on? So we still have 2 more agenda items, and we're getting close to the 2-hour mark. So maybe we move on? So the next item is the human relations position. I believe the mayor wanted to speak on that.
Yeah, through the chair, I wanted to follow up with members of City Council. We talked about, and I want to commend Nikki and her team and the team that's on the call. These calls and this planning process happens time after time. There was a team that came together, and it was around evictions. It was about landlords, and we started realizing that we all had a similar role, but then we had others that needed to have a follow up after we find out the citizen needs help with their rent, can't afford it for COVID, lost their job. And now what I'm asking is council, and we talked about the Human Relations Commission position previously, I'm asking that we move this position up under MyCap, and let MyCap be the overseer of the Human Relations Commission, adding another member to that team. I think Jonathan or whoever's in the Human Relations Commission position will have a greater opportunity to be right there. It's not called Jonathan, he's right in the building to really focus on some EEOC issues, benchmarks. One of the things I really want to make sure that we're doing more of is that once we pay for individuals if they're facing evictions, and we have the moratorium on evictions have been extended through the federal government. So we're hoping that we're going to see more relief funds. Federal government is working right now to figure out what that package looks like. But once we do that, we want to make sure that we have somebody who's following up with the tenants as well as with the landlords to find out what their rights are. So we're asking that we put them all, this position up under the umbrella of doing that. We want to focus on making sure that the tenants know their rights, but also the landlords know their right, and that the landlords are registered. So these are just a few of the pieces that we looked at. One of the things that I don't think happens, and Councilman Oliver can help me, is that when you come on boards, you need to there's recruitment, then there's orientation, and then there's training to sustain those board members. And I don't think any of that has going on or has happened. But if on the MyCap, that's what they have a model with their board on MyCap. That's what they're doing. They're recruiting, they're doing orientations, and they're training their board. So my goal is to make sure that we use our greater resources. We've already at many years or many other organizations that we had this position within a foundation organization. And I'm just asking that we allow the BOC and to enter to a contract, that we can enter to a contract with MyCap to oversee this program and process. One of the things that was mentioned and Nikki shared with you is that HUD wanted us to do greater fair housing. And this will give us the opportunity to have that foundation that we're going to make sure that we cover that piece. So when they come back and look at our action plan, those things will be achieved. So I just wanted to come back to council again and get, if there's any more questions, I would like to put the legislation up because time is of the essence. People are fighting for their eviction. It's a moratorium, that's good for now, but what happens after that? And the other piece that I really like this connection is because individuals are coming to MyCap are seeking help and need assistance. And many of them are saying, I need a job. The other side of the coin is that the employers are saying, I can't find anyone. So we need to be able to marry the two together, where we have those who want to work and the employers who are looking for jobs. And when we know through the Tax Review Incentive Committee is that Jonathan will know, or whoever's in that position will know, that this position, these individuals need these many Youngstown residents. And I always say, my goal is that you work, Youngstown residents work, and they're first. So this is just an extension and another person to bring up under the umbrella of making sure that we're providing the greater service and making sure that we collaborate with our resources. Nikki mentioned earlier about the investment that we had with our COVID funds. And if more COVID funds come down the line, we want to make sure we're ready to continue to tackle that issue.
Mayor, what is the cost differential between keeping it as is versus entering into contract with MyCap?
Through the chair, there will be no cost difference from the general fund. There will be some CDBG dollars, but that's because we have to do the fair housing piece. So there's no more cost to the general fund. There will be a cost to the budget, but the difference will be from the CDBG dollars, so we can cover the fair housing costs for that.
Do we know how much that is?
Off the ballpark, I believe my contract is 52 from the general fund, and the total will be 65 as it relates. So there's about maybe $10,000 or $11,000 difference between the two. But the general is already budgeted for. That comes out of the mayor's office, and the CDBG dollars is already budgeted because we have HUD saying we want to see more fair housing.
And then one more quick question. I may be incorrect on this, but MyCap is county, correct? Like they work for the whole county, correct?
They cover the entire county, yes.
Okay, and if this position were to move under MyCap, would their focus be just the city of Youngstown rather than the whole county and Youngstown?
No, through the chair, this would be only Youngstown. These are when we initiate any funds, they're within the geographical location of the city.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for my colleagues? Julius?
First question is, how would we be able to ensure that these monies are going to be allocated towards Youngstown only? Second question would be, as a former executive of MyCap, what do you think the greatest benefit of going over to MyCap with this contract is going to be for the city of Youngstown?
Through the chair, in direct response, Councilman, the first question is, how do we believe that we know that the monies are going to be spent? Because MyCap has all sorts of dollars, and if the dollars are designated for one specific area, they have to be accountable and they have to justify those dollars that they're spending. So it's a report out and a report in about dollars and where they're being spent. The greatest impact is that we can reach the people where they are. It's not going to have to say, well, I know someone who can help you with, if you got a landlord issue, I know someone who can help you with fair employment. If I'm going to MyCap, it's all one roof. It's kind of one-stop shop where if I'm there for a 10 o'clock, maybe appointment with HEAP, but I have some skills I want to work, I may be able to go at 11 o'clock and sit down with the Human Relations Commission and director and find out where job openings are, as well as making sure we can connect the dots if I have a complaint about my landlord, or if I'm a landlord and I have, I want to help my tenant get their monies, but I want to register. Who do I talk to? So that's a conduit from the MyCap to the community to where they are. It's best meeting them where they are, where, if individuals have to go to 10 different locations, it's a greater barrier. We're removing barriers. It's right there for them. That's another resource for the community.
Thank you. Follow up.
Yes, Julius.
So I know we've always dealt with another organization. How did we come to the conclusion of MyCap though? And is it going to be the same as it was before, as far as, somebody from our law department, somebody from doing compliance and things like that? Is that all going to be within MyCap? Like, are we going to use some of their legal help, or is it still going to be the city of Youngstown's making sure compliance is in place? As far as, I think when it was like contracting out or procurement, when it came to different contractors in the city, when things were bidded on, like, who's going to handle all of that? Is it still going to be within the city of Youngstown, or is MyCap going to take on that as well? Does it change in any way the structure of the way the board is?
Through the chair, direct response, Councilman, there will be some changes, but we will ultimately drive this force. The first question, let me answer that, and the other ones may be a little more detailed. Why do I believe MyCap is the best? I'm just looking at their performance. I look at data. I look at how they're. If you look at where people are investing, I just had a bank. Actually, it was Anthem Health Insurance that came across and gave MyCap money to help the community. So they're attracting they're attracting federal and state dollars. And I think their record speaks for themselves. And I think if you talk to their executive team over there, they're focused on the people. And this is what this position is about. People who may feel that they've been disenfranchised or unfair. So those are the people that are being worked, the clients that are there, that go there every day. So I think they can make the best impact because this is what they do every day. They go to work every day. This is what they focus on.
Thank you.
Lauren.
So we won't have our city Human Relations Commission anymore. We'll just have the one person and he'll work under my cap and they'll serve the roles that our commission once served.
Through the chair. We still will have our Human Relations Commission, but the oversight will happen at MyCap. That will be a foundation where the commission will meet. They can have their meetings, they can do their conference, the trainings. So that's where the umbrella comes in. That's where it's a greater opportunities to use some of the resources that are there and have a kind of a home base for our commission.
And we're not paying MyCap anything for this?
Well, it's just the contract in the there's some administrative pieces that come with the fair housing piece. Yeah, no more different than when we had it through the other agencies prior to me coming on, or when I was the Human Relations Commission. I worked for the Youngstown Warren Urban League. There was a contract, and the totality of the contract was one set price.
Did you have another follow-up, Lauren?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Not right now.
Julius?
There, just so we totally compliant on everything, there were no other requirements for as far as selecting this MyCap. We didn't have to like go out and give anybody like a fair shot to be the organization that the Human Relations Commission will be housed under, or so we could just choose somebody.
Through the chair, from what I've learned is, yes, you have the purview to figure out where you see the best fit. I mean, right now the Human Relations Commission director is really kind of a contract. It's a contract, and we're going to place that contract up under MyCap. So it's really, as it comes out of the mayor's office, it's a contract. Once council gives us approval to enter into agreement with that organization to oversee that program.
So no need to RFQ or go out for bid for this or anything. We good.
I believe we're good, sir. I'm not an attorney, and I haven't been just told anything different, but it's a contract with any other contract.
Our attorney's on here. You can ask him.
Well, I just in direct response, we can ask him. I just know it's a contract that comes out of the mayor's office, and all we really need is council's approval. It's our agreement with MyCap. And Jeff, you can, if you want to chime in, that's fine, but it's our agreement with MyCap. As long as they meet those duties and roles and responsibilities that we're placing before them, that's how they satisfy the contract.
I would agree, sir. Through the chair.
Thank you, Jeff. Lauren?
So you'd have to put, so you're going to put legislation in front of us to renew the Human Relations position, director's position, because that's a contract with the person filling it, right? And then you'll put up a contract or legislation to approve the contract for MyCap, and that'll include a price tag with it too. Is that the plan of action here?
Through the chair, I want to just put up a contract, enter into a contract with MyCap to oversee the Human Relations Commission and the roles and responsibilities of it. As one piece, yeah, one piece of legislation.
So I have a question now. So we're not asking to renew the person that's currently in that position. So would that then give the freedom to MyCap to get rid of the person that we are currently utilizing, and now they're going to choose who they want to represent our city?
Through the chair, that would be the purview, but through conversations, they are open to keeping the current director in that position. He's already working with them on position. So it's been a relationship already that they've been working through.
So in essence, though, we would so there is the potential to lose a physical body, give it to the organization, and they technically don't have to hire or use those funds to have a body doing that, but they could already have one of their current staffers doing it.
In direct response, we need a person. So we're asking them to contract for this position. So it's not that we're asking them to kind of take this role and spread it out so they can just keep the funds. We need a physical director because we need an executive director for that.
But then we're kind of losing our say in it. Now it's up to them who they choose rather than it staying internally in the city and us, by us, I mean your administration directly choosing. Now they're making the choice because we're contracting them to do the due diligence to pick who they think is best.
Through the chair, in direct response, it's always been the mayor's opportunity to pick the director, human relations director. It was no different than when I worked for the Youngstown Warren Urban League. Mayor Williams appointed me, but the contract was with the Urban League. So the contract will be with MyCap, but the relationship and the responsibility of it's a team effort. So this is a team opportunity. It wouldn't happen that they say we don't want that individual. Well, I have, or the council and the mayor have the opportunity to not use that contract with them. So that's how the relationship goes. That's a partnership. So this is really, in essence, a greater partnership.
Can legislation be written in such that it states that the city directly picks the director that will be housed under MyCap? That it's very clear that it is up to the city?
What I'll do is I'll refer back my point through the chair. I'll refer back to old contracts when we had other outside agencies that were responsible for that. I'll have law department find one of those. We'll mirror something like that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Moving on to our last topic under new business, housing strategy. And just to point out that we have had an extensive presentation and discussion previously about the housing strategy. I believe the reason for this being on the agenda is that administration is asking for us to officially adopt the housing strategy via resolution by City Council. But Nikki.
Yes, thank you. We are asking so that we can move forward. We're excited about the plan. We hope you've had time to look over it and provide any feedback that you can on it, but we want to move forward with it, and we're asking for CPED to recommend to council to adopt the strategy. I don't know if Ian or Jack had something additional or Mike to add. Okay, thank you.
Any questions or comments from my committee members? No? Okay, well, great. Moving on to the next item on the agenda under old business. I believe as part of the restructuring, Nikki, regarding the planning director ordinance 20-61, at this time, we're not doing anything with that. I believe we're just leaving it in committee, correct?
I guess I'm asking, I need your guidance on how to split this up. What I need is to split the position of community development director / planning and make them two separate positions. Leave the planning one alone for this year so that Beverly's position will be a standalone director position. The ask was initially to reduce the salary because it was being paid for at a higher salary because it had the planning component. So I wanted to remove the planning component and make the salary in line with the rest of the director's salary in the divisions. So however that needs to get worked out is what I was trying to accomplish.
So we're asking, because it's already a current ordinance, so the community development director position, which was ordinance 20-60, which is what we're asking to put Beverly into, you're asking for that to be considered for consideration by council as a whole.
Yes, just as community development director, but not the planning.
Okay.
portion. Yes.
So Lauren and Julius, that's going to be, you know, I don't know what you guys would like to do with that. If you're ready to move forward with it to the rest of council, to let council as a whole consider it. It's been sitting in committee since May. And that is for the community development director position, which is attached to ordinance 20-60, the one where they are asking to put Beverly in. We would have to, if the pleasure of the committee is to so choose to move forward, somebody would have to make a motion to forward it to the rest of council for consideration.
I'm fine moving forward with it since we've already sort of moved in that direction anyway, with Hunter filling a planning position this past year. And she's not really taking on the planning position this last year anyway. So we might as well align her position with her job duties at this point.
I agree. And then that way the rest of council would have an opportunity to, you know, decide to what they would like to do with that. Julius, did you have a comment?
Yeah, so this makes the whole situation with Tehran and everything null and void. Like, that's not a concern anymore.
Through the chair, I'd like to defer to Attorney Limbian or the mayor to respond to that.
Well, I don't think Tehran's circumstance was ever a concern. So I'm sorry, chairperson, through the chair. I don't believe the Tehran litigation in any way affects any plans moving forward. I mean, if you're suggesting that because it's still a matter of pending litigation, then it is in fact still out there. But in my estimation, it never was an issue with moving this department forward. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, we can move on. The next meeting, we'll go ahead and announce that. And then I need motions. Depending on what the committee likes to do, we're going to need a motion to forward ordinance 20-60 to the council, to the rest of the council floor for consideration of passage. We'll also need a motion to have the housing strategy to draft a resolution to be considered by council for adoption, and potentially, depending on how the committee feels regarding the other positions that are being requested, there would have to be a motion for the law department to draft those physically into a piece of legislation, to an ordinance. Lauren?
I just real quick question, Nate, just one more time. So can you run down the list of economic development positions you want to create and fill in 2021? Just the titles.
Business support. That's all I'm asking to fill for now, because we already have the EAG contract through the end of this year. And we have the minority business outreach contract through the end of this year.
What about Karen's?
Karen is under what would be planning if we had to separate the division. So that would be land reutilization administrator.
But that's not what you're asking for now.
Yes. I'm going to send you the old job descriptions for that, but that's what I'm asking for those now.
So
I guess we need to discuss whether or not to go through civil service and change it or add it new. So I want to have that discussion offline if we could.
Yeah, so that, I don't think that's something we can forward right now. As far as,
Well, we would just tell, like, I was just gonna make a motion to tell the law department to create the necessary legislation for Nikki's restructuring plan. And then they can get together and pull out the pieces that they wanted to do and present that legislation, and then we would have it to discuss again. But it sounds like Karen's gone in this month, right?
Through the chair, yes, 26th is her last day.
So that kind of seems like it needs to go quickly, whatever direction it ends up taking. But if the committee's okay with me just making a general motion, because then we'll see all the pieces of legislation individually one more time before we vote.
I'm kind of sketchy.
Or do you want to make really specific one? You want me to make really specific motions?
Well, just specific on, as far as whether we're restructuring or adding a new title, or however we would have to do to Karen's position as it pertains to making a whole new position, which I don't think is necessary. I think we just need to retitle Karen's position, in my mind.
Okay. Okay. Well, okay, I'm going to definitely make a motion to move ordinance 20-60 to council for consideration. I need a second.
Second, sorry.
Right, and then I'm definitely going to move, I'm definitely going to make a motion to instruct the law department to create the resolution for the adoption of the housing strategy.
Second.
And then
On Karen's, I think we just need to update the job description.
okay, well, I'm gonna make the general one and then the general thing, and then you guys, there can be offline conversation to get it, whatever it is everybody wants it to look like before it's actually, the legislation is drafted.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna say exactly how I want the legislation drafted. I'm just gonna make a motion to create the necessary legislation for Nikki's restructuring plan. And then those pieces of legislation can look however it is that everyone wants them to look.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, then I'm gonna make a motion to instruct the law department to create the necessary legislation for Nikki's restructuring plan that she presented today. Need a second?
Second.
And then is the MyCap contract something the mayor wants to move forward with right now, or are you coming back for that? And this was just an initial discussion.
Through the chair, I would like to move forward with that and present legislation to council for that.
Okay. So then I'll make a motion to ask the law department to draft legislation for the MyCap contract for the human relations position.
Second.
Okay. I don't have any more motions. Did I miss anything?
No, and I was just, Jen or Valencia, was that good?
This is Valencia. I follow it. There also needs to be a motion made for ordinance 20-61. The Deputy Director of Planning which I heard Ms. Posterly say that is no longer necessary. So it needs to come out of committee for a yes vote to defeat.
Nikki, is that what you wanted? Oh, sorry, Basha.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask Nikki. I believe we're just holding off on it. Like if we defeat it now, are we able to revisit it in 2022? Because I believe that's the goal that Nikki would like to present it for the following fiscal year.
Right, through the chair, I want to present Hunter's contract for 2021 instead of having two planning. I know that was a topic of discussion last year when I tried to present both. So I just want to present to renew Hunter for 2021 and then the standalone planner for 2022.
So this is Valencia again. So the ordinance that was brought almost a year ago with the title of Deputy Director of Planning, you currently do not want that, correct?
Not this year, not for 2021.
Okay, so we can't have legislation sitting for 2 years. So if they determine that they want to do it, you all should defeat it now. The current one that's been before council since March 4th, 2020, and then they can create new. Because we have a path here in the clerk's office that we record and archive by the year in which the legislation was created and passed. And usually things are created and passed within the same fiscal year. So it'll be hard to track this. So if, from the clerk's standpoint, if you're not going to take action to actually consider it for a vote, then defeat it. And when they're ready, they can represent the legislation.
Okay.
All right, then I'll make a motion to move ordinance 20-61 to the floor for consideration of passage with a yes vote to defeat.
No,
Second.
just with the yes vote to defeat. You don't want to pass in defeat. We just want to move it to the floor for a yes vote to defeat is the motion.
Okay, I make a motion for ordinance 20-61 to be moved to the council floor for a yes vote to defeat.
That's
Second.
correct.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for your time and for presenting all that information. As I said, the next meeting will be scheduled and we'll announce it at that time. May I entertain a motion for adjournment, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. We're adjourned at